What is up, everyone? Welcome to the very first Mechs on Deck podcast. We're just two dudes that are into keyboards. We kind of got each other into it and got each other further and further into it. I'm Osiris.
And I'm Chewy from. We both hail from Dallas, Texas, and just here to talk about keyboards and do something of a more of a shorter, like kind of podcast, video cast, and just kind of bring something a little, a little different. There are a lot of things out there right now that are very similar, but we just kind of wanted to put our own take on it and see where we go.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and kind of get into what we're going to talk about today. So I think the first thing that we're planning on talking about is some group buys that are currently going on and some that are coming up later this week.
So from Novel Keys is GMK Metropolis. It's been pretty hyped on GeekHack, and it finally just launched the other day. And it's a pretty neat set. It's something that I feel like it's very similar with a few of the colors to GMK Solarized Dark with the cayenne accents and the cayenne alpha lettering. Very colorful, but still keeps the accent keys definitely pop a lot, and I mean I really like it. I don't know if it's for me personally because of the orange. I'm not the biggest fan of the orange, but I really like the uniqueness of this set with choosing to go with certain bottom row accents differing from the top row. And I love the novelty keys. The novelty
Me
keys
too.
I think are fantastic. So
I think I agree with you there on like the orange, especially because I don't remember the last time I saw something in that Pantone in person. So I'm just like a little bit nervous as to what that orange is going to look like in person. But I think the alphas look great. I like the cyan on blue. I like the cyan accents. Even the yellow escape key is a nice little touch. But it's up 135 is pretty good price. Obviously it's up until the 25th of April. So you got a couple weeks to get in on it. So
yeah, honestly, I don't, my thing, I love they have the midnight kit. And I think that's great, but at the end of the day, it's also just kind of like Solarized Dark.
Yeah, it basically is.
It just depends on what how the colors turn out. But one thing I do appreciate that not a lot of keycap sets have is options of color. So they've thrown in, there's 4 separate colors, 3 accent colors in here, and especially with the novelty keys, you can really mix and match.
Definitely.
Something to kind of fit your style.
This is one of those that, and you can tell by the boards, like the color of boards they selected in the renders. It's definitely meant for like a blue or a gray or even a silver. I don't think it'll look as good if you put it in like a purple or like a pink case. If you put it into like a weird colored case, it might not look as great, but I think especially in this render on the KOU, it looks great.
Yeah, it's kind of a set that you want the keycaps to shine through more than the case, which
exactly,
we can talk about that for days. So, but next up is an interest check that just got approved recently for Kono. It's a GMK Nines. I know you are, Osiris, very excited as well as I am.
I am super stoked. This is actually like when you talk about having the keycaps shine, I feel like this is the opposite. Exactly. It's a very like subtle keycap set, but it's very like beautiful. I've always liked the idea of putting like a light gray or like almost like a taupe color onto a darker gray. I had a buddy that had a clothing line that did that, and I always thought it looked really, really cool. It gave it like a different aesthetic. So I really like this. And then of course the Rama keycap. So y'all won't know this, but my birthday is actually September 9th, so 9/9. So this is actually my birthday. So I've like basically as soon as I saw this, I decided I was gonna buy a shitload of these. Um, so
Yeah, it's a great set. I love the split between icon mods and text mods. I think that's to me one of the best looking um, mix and matches and one of the best looking keycap designs. I think I'm glad he decided to go with the addition of the escape and enter keys
mhm.
as just the reverse. Um, it doesn't really need it, but if you want something, just like I'm a huge fan of accent keys, so especially when he added that, it was great. And the Rama cap does just. I hope it looks as good in person as it does in this picture because that is just such a clean looking Rama cap, and they could have easily just gone with the X and O normal. They decided to go with something different, and I think that makes it really unique. So I will most likely be getting in on this buy as well.
Yeah, I definitely am in on it once it goes on the second. I am interested to see how the paint in here matches up with the Pantone as well once
Yeah.
it comes out. Um,
And the good thing about this set is since it is all just base GMK colors, once the set's over, they can pretty much start um, production immediately because they're just base GMK colors. So there's no real issue with having to get color matching or anything like that. So it's a good buy for a good turnaround. I can't imagine more than a couple months. This should be out by the end of the summer. The Rama Cat might take a little bit longer, which that's totally understandable. But
yeah,
yeah, I'm excited.
yeah, and honestly, with the amount of like brass caps that Rama has been doing the past like couple months, it may be pretty quick. Who knows? It just
Yeah,
depends on how many people are into it. I'm sure the more people that purchase them, the quicker it'll go because it'll be easier to get that order over. So really excited about this one. Can't wait for this to open up on the second. So
yeah. And coming in at only $130 US, that's just another great price, and that's to me a must have for people that like very subtle keycap designs. So
yeah, it's definitely that's another benefit of doing the doing those standard GMK colors is that you can get the price down a little bit. They don't have to pay extra to change these colors up. So
yep. All right. So the next little subject, what we're going to do on this channel is, we'll talk about a little bit of news, but there are a lot of places you can get news from. So we're just kind of touching on things that interest us. But our topic, we're going to be trying to talk about a topic every week, and the first one we figured would be where to start. Where do you start in the mechanical keyboard world? It is you hop on our mechanical keyboards and you see all these crazy boards. You have 40% boards without number rows,
right.
and you have these crazy layouts and split keyboards, and people are, it can be a very daunting and very intimidating to see all these boards. And so, we decide we where do you go? Where do you start
Yeah.
in this whole community? So,
Definitely. Yeah, it's a little bit overwhelming when you look at everything at first when you're looking at there, and especially if you start looking at some of the prices on things like Mech Market and stuff. But we'll get into that later. But first, I think we want to talk about buying pre-made versus buying like DIY or buying to build your own keyboard. There's some pretty big differences between the two. I will say the very first thing that you should do, if you have no preferences, you have no allegiance to any typical brand of switches or anything, buy a switch tester. I know that Chewy himself over here wishes that he had bought a switch tester before
my
his
my
first board.
absolute biggest mistake was not waiting and getting a switch tester, because this is something, if you're wanting to invest a lot of money into it, or even a little bit of money, I mean, the average board, you're going to be spending anywhere between $80 to $200 on your first board probably, and that's you want to spend your hard-earned money somewhere, and I think just a quick switch tester, you can get them on Novel Keys, you can get them sometimes on Mass Drop. I know KBD Fans has some. Even on Amazon for the cherry switches, I know they're on there. But buy a switch tester because you just what don't know what you like until you feel it. There are certain switches that, in theory, sound amazing, and then when you get them, you realize that you don't actually like them, and
Yeah.
so it's so important to me that people buy a switch tester just to try.
Yeah, especially, even if you are looking to go pre-built, it is worth it to buy a cherry, or even a kale if the keyboard you're looking at offers kale switches. To buy a switch tester for those, just so you know that what you're getting is something that you're going to enjoy for a while, because especially that first board, you want to have a good experience, and it can really help you out in the long run, and getting into and further into this little hobby. But in terms of going pre-built, there's definitely kind of some advantages there versus going DIY. It is nice to be able to just kind of open it up and plug it in, and maybe depending on which brand it is, download a software and then just go with it. And
Yeah, it can be it's a very rewarding experience putting your money towards something and it just having to work. You just want
yeah,
things to work right out of the box. I've explained this kind of like Windows versus PC, or sorry, Windows versus Apple,
versus Mac. Yeah.
where a Mac will just work out of the box and it works great. PC, you might have to do lots of tweaks and changes and a little more. But once again, that comes with customizability versus just wanting it to work. And so boards that just work make it makes you feel like your money went to a good cause because there's no issues. And if you buy from a reputable source, if there are issues, you can get that fixed. Whereas, going DIY, if you mess something up on your own, it can be a little tricky getting that fixed. So,
Yeah, and with a pre-built, it's definitely, the cost is a lot lower. You think a company like Corsair or Razer or HyperX, these big name gaming brands are printing hundreds of thousands of these keyboards every year, if not millions. So their costs are a lot lower than if you were to go with someone that was like a DIY, like if you're trying to get something off of Mech Market or KBD Fans or something like that. It's going to be a lot lower. Um, with that, you're not getting as much customization to it. You won't get things like an aluminum case is a lot harder to come by. There are a couple that have full metal cases, but most of them will have metal plates for the most part now. And the big benefit too is that it comes with everything. Really, you get keycaps there. Obviously, you can change those out, which is still great. But you do get those included with the keyboard in that $100-$200 cost. So
yeah, and that's something that can be very confusing, especially if you go DIY, where you're like, oh, I have to buy keycaps too. Like, why does that not just come with the board? But the upsides to DIY is you get to pick exactly what you want, and that's there's experience. The experience of building a board is very rewarding. That's kind of the biggest reason I got into this hobby is building a board was an extremely rewarding experience. I soldered. I actually Osiris here built me a Tada, and then I realized I had made a mistake with the switches, and so
and then switch to the
I
switches that I was like,
and then
hey, I
switched
think
to the
you would like
switches that
these.
he suggested to begin with, but building that was an extremely rewarding
Yeah.
experience, and it's fun to put the work in, put the time in, and get something out of it that is
Yeah.
just a fantastic thing. And then on top of that, when you go DIY, you have a lot more options of layout. So maybe you want to go into the 60-65% layout where it's a lot smaller, takes up a lot less desk space. If you're a gamer, that can be very beneficial to having more space on your desk, especially if you're limited. Or you can also get a TKL or the 96 keys, or just there's so many options out there that you can get, that you can really make it your own, and then you can pick exactly which switch, because not all pre-builts have every single switch that you might want, which there are so many good switches out
Right.
there that are not offered on pre-built, and it can be and that's why we go back to buy a switch tester, because you don't know if you want to buy a pre-built versus a DIY. So that just can be such a game changer for your experience with the board.
Yeah, because and we're starting to see it with a couple different boards, but most of them now at this point in time are all soldered in for the pre-builts. There are a couple hot swaps, but for the most part, it is all soldered in. So you really kind of need to know what you're getting yourself into and what you like, because your options on a lot of the like really well-known brands, Corsair, it uses all cherry. Razer has their own switches, and then so does Logitech, and they're all very different. So it's good to always kind of go and try them at your store, or get a switch tester for that.
So, and the good thing, that I think it's become way more of a thing in the past year, is hot swap versus soldering,
Yeah.
because soldering can be such a overwhelmingly intimidating task. And I will say, we'll talk about this on another one a lot, about the big differences between hot swap and soldering. But one thing that is fantastic is that soldering is actually not that hard.
No, it's
It
not.
can be very intimidating, but it is a very, once again, I talked about rewarding experience. It's a very rewarding experience, soldering a board together. Um, and kind of making it permanent. I know that sounds, could be not what some people want, but making a board permanent and making a board work, and not having to deal with certain issues of hot swap. And on top of that, soldering, you can, especially with certain PCBs like the DZ60, you can pick what layout you want. You're not just locked into this one layout.
Yeah.
So, but once again, hot swap, you don't have to buy a soldering iron. You don't have to worry about solder. You don't have to worry about desoldering, which is
Yeah.
the worst part about this entire hobby.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
hot swap is good, in the fact of one of the things that's great about this hobby is the variety that's available. And one thing that is really cool about having hot swap is to be able to just flip something in and push a new switch in those hot swap sockets and try it out for a couple weeks. And if you don't like it, you can take it right out, and you don't have to, you know, desolder, because that sucks. There's really no good way to
yeah,
desolder. And the ways that work really well, it's just really tedious. It's not what you want. That's the non-rewarding portion of
yeah, that's the
of
least
building
rewarding
a
part of
keyboard.
keyboards.
So
But so where do you go? So you've got all the information. You've picked a layout. You've picked, um, exactly what switches, but you want to buy. There are multiple places you can buy. There are multiple. You can go on Mech Market, which is, on Reddit. It's the kind of keyboard trading and market community, um, where you'll be able to find things on there that are not sold, but you just have to worry about the fact that you are just dealing with other people around the world. But if we're making our recommendation, the first thing, like we said, you should do is get that switch tester, figure out what switch you want, and then do your research. Get the, if you decide you really love a Zelio V2, well, you're gonna have to go DIY, because
yeah,
they don't really make boards with that unless you find one secondhand. Where if you decide, you know what, MX Brown is the way to go for me. I don't care about all these other switches. I think that I tried this and I really like it. Then you're going to be able to find a lot of boards for cheaper
yeah,
that offer that switch.
yeah. We have.
So
I mean, there's, and then there's a couple different sites that are great for having a lot of options when it comes to that. Like if you're going DIY and you're just starting out and you aren't wanting to go crazy with it and spend a ton of money, going with something from KBD Fans, even if you are looking to spend a little bit of money, their boards are fantastic. The tofu is great. I have multiple Tada 68s that I've upgraded from their plastic case into aluminum cases that look and feel fantastic because I've done lots of work to them. They're easy entry level DIY boards if you are someone that likes to kind of tinker with things and is proficient at soldering, or wants to get into soldering. Getting a board like that is a great option. And then as far as if you're wanting something that's kind of in between, Glorious PC Gaming Race. You may know them for their mouse pads or um, their wrist
Wrist
rests.
rests.
They make a fantastic hot swap TKL and full size keyboard that you can get with Kale or Cherry switches. And then if you decide, hey, I want to try these Zelios or these holy pandas that everyone's talking about, you can buy them and just push them right in. And it's got all the gamery things. It's got full RGB and all that. So you can really add in a lot. And then of course, like Dave said, Mech Market is awesome.
Mech Market's a great. It's very. I've used it multiple times. It's great for finding things that, as someone, especially as a newcomer, if someone is kind of looking and going, I don't really, the gamery thing's not for me, but I don't want to solder, but I kind of know what switches I want. Obviously it's all luck of the draw if based on who's selling what at what time, but you can typically find something that you can. But if I'm making a personal recommendation, I would go, if pick your layout and pick your switch, but I would go with something from KBD Fans. Just a heads up, we are not sponsored by anybody. These are all our own opinions. But I think especially the KBD Fans Tofu, either the Win Keyless or HHKB, are fantastic because they have a built-in plate, so you don't have to worry about buying an extra plate. Comes with a PCB, comes with stabilizers. Doesn't come with switches or caps, but you can get both of those things on the website as well. It's just a great all-in-one. And it takes half an hour to put together, and you're typing away on a brand new key.
Yeah,
So
and they even have the pre-assembled versions of all of their boards as well on their website. So if hey, I kind of want this exotic layout that I can't find, from Corsair or Razer, or even something like Glorious, if you want a 65% or a 75%, you can go on KBD Fans, pick out your switch, pick out your board, and they'll put it together for you. It'll ship without caps, but they also have caps available. Or you can go on like Mech Market or get in on a group buy, and get something that you really like. So
yeah. So and that's kind of our DIY recommendation. We've said GMMK. I think my personal recommendation for the pre-built is the Kira on Kono. It's a very it can bring you into a different layout, but a lot of people who are coming in are going, well, I need my number pad, I need my arrow keys, I need my F-row. It's more compact than I'm used to, but you know what? I think I can get used to this layout, and it's not, you're not straying too far from the norm. And that's a board you can get some great switches with. It's all hot swap. It's RGB for the people that love gaming. It's already got caps with it, and it comes with a great case too. So that, to me,
yeah.
if you're looking for something that's a full size board and you want to get into the community, once again, we're not sponsored by anybody, but the Kira by Kono. I've typed on one. I actually got one for a great friend of mine, for him to get into the community, and I was blown away by how awesome that board was.
Yeah, it's a great little board. It's a cool layout. If you're not interested in trying to go to one of these tiny little 60 65% or even a 75%, it's great because it gives you the flexibility of having all the keys that you need, and the ability to type on a full board but still have something that's unique to you. So
Yeah. So that's going to do it for our topic. If you have questions, you can obviously message us on there. You can post a comment on YouTube or in the below. You can message us on Discord. We'll have the link for Discord. Be sure to check
Yep.
it out on the Mechs on Deck Discord. I'm on there all the time. If you have questions, if you just want to talk about keyboards, I will talk to you all day about that.
Yeah.
But the last thing we're going to do is kind of a weekly thing. We're going to pick someone's board that we find on either Reddit or Keep Talk or Geekhack, Instagram, somewhere. But this week is by, I want to say it's Gideon89.
Yep. Gideon89.
Gideon89. It's this is the Box CP by TX Keyboards. It's a antique copper finish with my personal favorite set, GMK Camping. I'm very very partial to this key set.
Yeah, if you've been paying attention to our background, the keyboards that are in the background are actually ours.
Yes.
And Chewy's is the one that has GMK Camping on it, and he has a similar case, brass, the antique brass TX60 that he just purchased and put that on. But yeah, he definitely loves camping, and you can tell that this was very influenced by him. This is a beautiful board. I love the utilization of the different novelty keys here that you don't necessarily have to use. But I definitely like them, especially with that little artisan as well up on the escape key. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is just, it rounds out everything that's great about this set. It shows off the nice, you have the camp on the bottom left Windows key. You've got the fishbone backspace, which this is a set that came out with a lot of novelties. And not a lot of people were doing, I know that not a lot of people were doing novelties for other than just kind of your bottom row and inner. And escape, but with the backspace, I know I think GMK Samurai did this, but GMK Camping as well with that fishbone backspace is fantastic. The red and the green just are so good together, and if you can find the set on Mech Market, highly recommend. But Gideon89, the mix up and mix and match of the board and the desk pad from Novel Keys, you definitely get our keyboard of the week.
One thing I didn't even notice about this when I first looked at it, he even has green LEDs on the indicators.
Just bring it
attention to detail, my dude.
Exactly.
It's a great board, Gideon. We appreciate you sharing it with everyone on our mechanical keyboards. Yeah.
But that's going to do it for us. We'll be back. Once again, check us out on Instagram on at Mechs on Deck. Check us out on Discord with the link below. Come say hello. Come talk about keyboards. Talk about whatever you want. We'd love to chat with you about any and all things keyboards. And we'll be posting videos pretty frequently. We'll get some typing videos as well.
Absolutely.
And we hope to hear back from y'all, and we hope to continue and are excited to continue making these videos.
Yeah, we definitely are. And if you do want your keyboard to be featured in the background of the show, just shoot it over to us on the Discord, and we'd love to put it in our little slideshow. And we definitely want to add them in every week and see what we can do with it and see what kind of cool boards we can show off. But yeah, like Chewy said, we're definitely excited, and thanks for stopping by.
Have a good one.